Had a lot of conversation about Nnamdi Kanu'S situation, including revealing to the Nigerian people that his trial was pre-planned. Everything that eventually played out on the day of his conviction had already been exposed by me on November 5. Maybe we are only lucky that we fought a bit through the Free Nnamdi Kanu protest to have saved Nnamdi Kanu from the hangman's noose. They were going to sentence him to death. That was the plan. And you can check my Twitter and Facebook posts on November 5, because I was giving that information in advance.
Hello guys, how you all doing? Guys, Omoyele Sowore has made a bold and explosive claim that is now shaking the political space in Nigeria. According to him, Nnamdi Kanu's trial was never about justice, it was allegedly a carefully crafted setup. Sowore insists that powerful figures within the Bola Tinubu administration, working hand in hand with certain elements in the judiciary, had already sealed Kanu's fate, whether death or life imprisonment. He says the sentence was decided long before the court proceedings ever began. Sowore reveals that the legal processes we all watched, the court appearances, the motions, the delays were simply a performance created to make a predetermined verdict look legitimate. Sowore's allegation raises one huge question. Was the trial real, or was it a facade making a political decision? Stay tuned because this story is far from over. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you. See you.
Had a lot of conversation about Nnamdi Kanu'S situation, including revealing to the Nigerian people that his trial was pre-planned. Everything that eventually played out on the day of his conviction had already been exposed by me on November 5. Maybe we are only lucky that we fought a bit through the Free Nnamdi Kanu protest to have saved Nnamdi Kanu from the hangman's noose. They were going to sentence him to death. That was the plan. And you can check my Twitter and Facebook posts on November 5, because I was giving that information in advance. They also, as a result of that, got very upset that we had a protest in Abuja. They shot at us, tear gas, arrested his lawyers, myself, later, and took us to the court outside of, within Abuja, but, near Kuje, and sent us to prison for 4 days. After we were granted bail on a Friday, the judge who was supposed to sign off on our bail paper ran away. He didn't come back until Monday. They were already setting the agenda for Nnamdi Kanu's conviction, or whatever they were going to do. But when they realized that maybe this is not popular or not going to be popular, they kind of pulled back a bit, and they did the life imprisonment. And they have also realized that even the life imprisonment has not stopped his life, or the life of what he stood for. Because it came at a time that, like I've always said, he prophetically predicted some of the things that are happening in Nigeria now. And when he was eventually convicted, those things have come full circle in terms of terrorism, the unchecked activities of the people you call terrorists or bandits, who have been given preferential treatments in Nigeria over time. They always have the right. They can drive around in their convoys with vehicles seized from the Nigerian army. One of them wore a uniform of a police commissioner, an assistant police commissioner he killed. He wore his uniform to town. They were carrying their magazines and their heavy-duty weapons and ammunition and addressing press conferences. I insist that till date, the only evidence that was adduced against Nnamdi Kanu in his trial, the whole trial, was that he had a microphone and he had a radio transmitter and his underwear, both top and bottom, that he found in a hotel. Every other evidence they claimed was against him were things that were circumstantial. Oh, he said that the people should kill police, even when he was not in the country. Oh, he was the one who made NSAS to become what it is. But there are celebrities in Nigeria who claim they started NSAS. I started NSAS in Abuja. And I was one who gathered a lot of people that joined NSAS by calling them individuals, some of the celebrities. So if those ones are being celebrated for doing NSAS, why is Nnamdi Kanu being sent to prison for life? Just for speaking on the day of NSAS to say, oh, do this or whatever they said, he said. So everything they accuse him of are things that they had no evidence caused any problem, that they adduced caused. They even accuse him of killing Gulag while he was in detention. I know something about being in DSS detention. You have zero access to communication. Even if you smuggle something in, they have a way of monitoring you. So how could somebody like that be sentenced to death? And a terrorist from one of the Boko Haram commander was sentenced to 20 years in prison. That is why Nigeria is where it is today. Some people in our animal farm, some animals are superior to others. And until that is addressed, until the justice applies to everybody in Nigeria, You are not going to get peace without justice. That's what so many of us have been saying, whether you like to hear it or not. But I feel it has come full circle now, that even those who felt like they can bamboozle others by saying, oh yeah, he did this, he's a bad person, they are now dealing with the real bad people. Unfortunately though, those real bad people have cover. They have immunity. Yes, let me first state this, that I'm not here to find ethnic differences. But I have said, and I will restate here, that Nigeria has an Igbo problem. And this, of course, emanated historically from the Civil War, where we claim that it was no vanquished and no victor. But ultimately, there was a vanquished person. If you had 10 million naira before the war, you are giving 20 naira after the war. You are the one vanquished. If they said to you, you cannot be promoted in the army because you can't be trusted, you are the one vanquished. If you cannot get promoted within the civil service because you can't be trusted, you are the one vanquished. To come to your question, and just to say that anybody who says that an Igbo man is not treated differently is just lying. That's the truth. Well, all of us know this. That's a big elephant in the room. And that is what I said earlier when I said, well, there's a Boko Haram guy who has been killing, beheading people, and he was sentenced to 20 years. And the guy who uses a microphone and a radio transmitter is sent to prison for life. They could have sentenced him to death if something hadn't taken place. Then to go to your question about the issue of how the regional power brokers behaved. I was in the midst of it. I was the one calling them up for protests. And I knew what I went through in the hands of the governors, House of Rep members, senators in the Southeast. They all flatly and vehemently, without speaking, refused to encourage their people to participate in anything that could peacefully. It was a peaceful protest planned. So who did we rely on? We relied on those in the markets to close down their markets. But the major leaders, including the deputy speaker, he came out shamelessly asking that Igbos should sit at home and you should show that you are cowards. There's no cowardice in peaceful protest. The reason is that they believe that Nnamdi is too powerful politically, and that if he's released, he will have some impact on their political influence and popularity in the zone. They know that they are not popular, but they have all relied on the center to get whatever they want, to keep control over the southeastern political people. And they know that they are running out of time. If Nnamdi Kanu is released, that would not continue. We will no longer enjoy what they're enjoying now. Whatever it is, whether it is fake or real popularity or power, they will lose it. They know it. Because I will reveal to you today that one of the biggest issues with the Nigerian state and Nnamdi Kanu is that they couldn't get him to promise that he would renounce his agitation for Biafra. That's the biggest problem. That was his main crime. They said it. If they even proposed to me that I should go tell him to enter his defense, and if he enters his defense, then if they release him, he should promise that he will form a political party and participate in politics. And if he can do that, they will have no problem with him. He said, no, I want my region to be different from Nigeria because Nigeria cannot support our aspiration for greatness. Now, my caveat is that I am opposed to breaking up Nigeria. I'm a Pan-Africanist. But I have seen, read, and known that it is not a crime for people to seek self-determination. So the regional leaders we are talking about, I called all of them. I called all the governors. At least I know Soludo. I used to be able to reach him. I mentioned here that the governor of his state, Abia, was a columnist at Sahara Reporter. So I called a lot of them. No one of them picked my call. No one of them has called me back because what we want is not what they want. They want what they call a political solution. A political solution is that you jail him first and then we'll beg you to free him on certain conditions. So that tag of ex-convict, they wanted it badly. All of them are agreed on that. The question is, how did they release him? Nobody can tell you when they will release him. They don't plan to release him because of his refusal to endorse their political agenda in the Southeast. That is the problem. They don't want to hear his name. But the people of the Southeast, the regular people, are in love with him. And we've seen that with what happened in protests, how markets were closed across the country without a whimper. And they still are going to fight to ensure that Nnamdi Kanu is free. I will still fight to ensure that Nnamdi Kanu is free from this unjust incarceration into which he's been thrown. And don't forget, and I'll say this in closing, that this is the same way Ken Sowore was treated in 1995. This is 2025. I guess every 20 years, or is it every 30 years, Nigeria needs a victim, either in prison or in the Golo time. And guess what? It happened in November 2025. Ken Sowore was November 1995. 30 years later, the country hasn't learned its lessons. When people don't have anything to offer, they keep giving you excuses. There's a cabal, there's a group of advisors, there's a shadow cabinet, there's a kitchen cabinet. They have all kinds of label for them. But the question you should ask yourself is that if you're going to be president of Nigeria, didn't you go there with your own cabal? So it's a question of character of leadership. It's not any cabal. There's no cabal anywhere that you walk into Aso Rock and says you cannot govern. There's no cabal that says a bulldozer cannot construct a road. There's no cabal that stops, the cabal doesn't stop those in power from stealing. Like we had of the former central bank governor, Emefiele, and the rest of them that are now undergoing. This cabal doesn't stop them. But it is when it's time to perform that you start hearing of cabal. Like, I've stopped giving those excuses, except where we have clear evidence of such people, like we had under Yaradua, where we knew that his wife and some people were, controlling Nigerians, lying about the health of our husband, who had died maybe months before they finally declared him dead, and were controlling the country. But even at that, wherever you hear of cabal, there's also complicity at all levels of government. It's a democratic government. In the Tinubu regime now, the cabal is, number one, the president and his office and his staff, people he brought in from Lagos. Clearly, those are the cabal members.
There are
Then,
those who have argued.
in the judiciary...
Sorry, Sowore, but there are those who have argued.
Yeah,
there are those who have argued that this cabal exists, regardless of who the president is, and that they usually play a very prominent role in the decision that the presidents make. Sometimes they tie the president's hands behind his back. So are you saying this cabal doesn't exist?
So has any president ever told you? Has any president ever told you that they tied his hand behind his back?
No, but they won't say that. But from the actions that we're seeing,
that you have them repeat.
So you're saying no cabal exists? No cabal exists.
Yeah, the number one cabal in the country is the president of the country. In a powerful presidency like Nigeria's presidency, there's nobody who tells the president what to do. The president has a final say. Of course, there might be people, there might be special interests. There are special interests everywhere in the world politically. But in our own case, even the president of Nigeria is more powerful than the US president. All they do is what the president wants to hear. So if anybody is failing and they're telling there's a cabal, they're trying to shift the blame in away from their own failure, glaring failure, to a shadowy group that you and I have no evidence exists, so that you keep helping them to repeat the excuse of why they failed in the first place. That's why we keep saying you should challenge these guys during the election. Don't let them run away from debates. Tackle them. We in the last election, we saw what you guys did in the press. You will not interview the people you claim are the main candidates. Every day you interview their minions. But when it comes to those of us who have ideas, we really get interviewed. Then when it comes to your analysts, they're analyzing the people who are going to fail. They don't analyze the people who have ideas. I saw it on this table, on Arise TV. You have some political analysts, all of them. They're always analyzing the people who have failed in their past jobs or who are going to fail. When you ask them, what about the other candidates? Those ones don't matter. But that is because you keep helping them to repeat the same lie as a cabal. How can somebody tie the hand of the president of Nigeria behind his back? Who? Who is that person? Is he the IG of police, or is he in the army? Is he retired or serving? Who is he, a traditional ruler? There's nothing like that, because the way Nigerian society is, the person who is number one becomes everything. He's a traditional ruler, he's a chief priest, he's the president, he's the chief judge, he's the senate president, he's the speaker of the house.
But if that's
you know
the case,
how these things work.
If that's the
but
case,
when they want to lie to you, when they want to lie to you, they'll tell you, somebody's holding, they tie somebody's back behind it. That's what judges always say to you all the time.
Oh.
Well, I would have given you bail. Somebody is tying my... How do you say that in a democratic society? And we keep repeating it. If somebody's hand is tied behind his back, he should leave power, resign.
But
let him use the last opportunity to grab the pen and resign, and let people whose hand cannot be tied behind their back assume power, and you see the difference in hours.
But if that's the case, and you say the president is so powerful, the number one most powerful person in Nigeria, why do we now seem to be being in a compromising situation where we try to negotiate with the bandits, as we have seen? Why do we do that? Why don't we just arrest and do capital punishments for them?
It is because your president is incapable of doing what he was elected or appointed
but if he's the most powerful
or selected
person
to do.
But if he's as powerful as you say he is, the most powerful person, why should he be?
You can have a powerful position. You can have a powerful position and not have a powerful character or competent character. We have seen that happen all over the world. You see, there was a time the US, I think it was Roosevelt, or one of their presidents, was wheelchair bound. Nobody knew, because he was performing his job very well. But in Nigeria, you see an able-bodied president, and he's not really able-bodied. They just present him as an able-bodied person. Mentally, he's gone. Physically, he's gone. They pump them up. They come and say something. They say, keep repeating that. That is what is the problem. What I'm saying is that the position of president of Nigeria is a powerful position. I am not saying that the people who have run those places are powerful people, because most of them are intellectually bankrupt. Some of them are physically incapable of doing things, and there's nothing wrong with having physical incapacitation. But you just have to reveal it so that we know the extent to which you can do and not do your job.
Thank you so much.
That's why I told you earlier, I was a reporter who covered the president who had died 5 months before, and they kept saying that he's still president of Nigeria. Talking about Yaradua. I quickly respond to my friend who was talking about the trial of Nnamdi Kanu and what is fit and what is not fit. I'm not a lawyer, but I know that there's a legal principle known as in Latin, es nihilo nihil fit, which is you can't build something on nothing. That you can't derive legitimacy from a flawed process. If someone is abducted or kidnapped from another country and brought to your country, you can't try him basically because that's unknown to law as a way of apprehending a suspect. And you cannot commit crime just so as to prevent crime. So I just want to clear that as far as this goes. Like I said, I'm not a lawyer, but I know this is a legal principle that is very well known as a basis for fairness and fair play in law. But having said that, you've mentioned this man in Kaduna who I used to know. I could almost call him my friend. That's this Sheikh Gumi. But you see, what Nigeria has become is when there is no leadership, when nobody's taking charge in terms of protecting the country, in terms of competence, in terms of doing what is right, all kinds of characters will come and be dictating what should be done. And in the absence of solid government response to these issues, people start listening to them. And I have said somewhere that I think Sheikh Gumi is doing what he feels should be done because he has found that there's no leadership in the country to address the issue. So he's making his own proposals.
Yeah, but Sowore, those who say the militants were just as terrifying at some point, and they were given rescue with this amnesty program, and the same should be done to the bandits and terrorists. That's why I'm asking, do you think they should be given the same opportunity as the militants were given with the amnesty program?
I don't want to excuse the militants, but you see, the position of the militants were dealing with, in some cases, even environmental issues, long-held issues about the unjust way of managing Niger Delta resources. So they were targeting the economic life of the country in order to get attention to those things. It is debatable if after you settle them and they are being paid, the issues have been resolved. Because what you now find out is that you have lost the Nigerian Navy in a section of the country. And the fact that we did militancy in terms of amnesty doesn't mean that we should deal with, what is it called, banditry and terrorism the same way. Because the militants were people you could reach. People could meet with them. Even government officials met with them. Goodluck Jonathan went and had long meetings with them. But the bandits, the more you meet with them, the more emboldened they are. And they are taking lives on a daily basis. They are not negotiating with you. You don't even know who you are talking with. Today you are saying it's Boko Haram, the next day it's Lakurawa, and you can't tell the boundaries between militancy, banditry, and very heinous crimes that these guys are committing. I don't think we should treat it the same way. What we must do is to restore our country's ability to deal with crime, militancy, terror, whichever way you call them. And until you do that, it will start suggesting things that work and never worked. Like I said, that's subject to a debate for another show. But the truth today is that you are in the throes of people who are outlaws and don't care about whether you are willing to negotiate or not. Each time you negotiate with them, they show to you that the processes of negotiation are used to purchase more weapons. They abduct more people, they kidnap more people, they take more turf, they take territory, and they are showing that they are the government in the country. So immediately, short term, you must end that. I would admit to one thing, and that's the fact that any form of security problem that has lasted for more than 10 years, we were taught that in graduate school, you should find other alternatives of dealing with those.
Thank you very much.
But even in dealing with those, you must not lose your capability to control your territory as the government and make sure that your military or security forces are doing what needs to be done. Here, there's a failure in that regard and in that sector.
Okay, thank you very much, Sowore Omoyele. We're going on a break right now. I hear that Dixon is in the house, so even if we have him for just a couple of minutes, he'll be most welcome. We now have Dixon in the house, so better late than never, as they say. So welcome to Perspective, Dixon.
Thank you for having me.
So let me ask you, what can global partners realistically offer Nigeria in this fight? And what internal gaps must we fix for the support to be effective?
Oh, fantastic question. Thank you for having me. We've been having a lot of assistance from the international community, from other global partners in the fight against insurgency, and yet it has not yielded any results from time since 2009 when Boko Haram sprang up officially and taking over some territories from Nigeria. But for me, I think what we are suffering from the enemy within. And when you suffer from the enemy within, that tells you that is going to be a very difficult fight to handle. Just an Arabian proverb that says that it is preferable to have 1,000 enemies outside than to have a single enemy inside, and inside that threat. That is what is bedeviling Nigeria. And that's why this fight has been taking so long, because those people who are the internal threats are really, really fighting so hard to ensure that our government do not achieve victory in this fight against insurgency. But for me, if we want to get it very properly or very right, I think we must start looking at the enemy within. The enemy within is one of the major threats.
Can I just stop you there briefly? Because I did mention a cabal, the existence of a cabal, to one of the guests, and he said that is just a myth. So do you actually believe that there are enemies within that want to continue this insecurity?
Of course there are. Some few years ago, the United Arab Emirates sent some list of terrorism sponsors to the federal government of Nigeria during the time of General Muhammad Buhari, the former president. And Nigeria had expected that the list that was sent to the federal government will be made open for us to know who are the enemy within. But that list up to today, we've not seen it. And sometimes a few months ago, we learned about some secret trials of these sponsors of terrorism. And I see that as a defeat on our national security. I see that as an abuse on our strategy, because if we don't take out this enemy within, we'll keep on fighting.
Why is it impossible to take them out?
Well, I think the government should be able to give us a response, because I think nobody.
What do you think, though? What do you think is the
For me, I think the government is not really serious about the spirit of insecurity, and they don't really want to hit or take the bull by the horn, because I don't think any person in this country is bigger than the law or bigger than the federation. We've seen Sheikh Gumi coming on air, on board, on various platforms, defending the killers of our soldiers, defending the killers of our officers and men. And I just sometimes worry if this man is above the law, or if this man is above the state of Nigeria, or above this country. But for me, I think it's not just that we are not ready as a government, and if we are ready, we'll start going after the sponsors, going after the cabals, bring them to book, because if we want to keep on fighting or killing these terrorists or these fighters, we'll kill them till eternity. And newborn babies in next few more or some years to come from the terrorist perspective, or families would want to go into terrorism. So we need to strategically fight this war and ensure that we wipe out the sponsors, the financiers, and also ensure that we delink with the resource and we demobilize them, because they use resources, and without resources they will not strive. So let's try and see how we cut off the enemy within and also cut off their resources. That is the resourcing. When we de-resource this criminal element, I tell you, they will not have more resources.
But do you think the president's speech about recalling VIP soldiers that protect VIP, getting new troops, how much cost training do they need? How much do they need to train to be ready to face these insurgents and the bandits and Boko Haram? And then also, they don't even have the kind of instruments we hear that those ones have. So how long should this training course be to make our soldiers effective enough and capable enough to face the bandits? And do you also think that some old retired soldiers should be recalled from the experience?
For the last question, fantastic question, Ruth. I don't think we are just mixing up issues in this country. I don't think personnel is a problem, and I also don't think that we don't have the capability and capacity. But I just
do we have enough soldiers on ground?
We have soldiers on ground, but we don't have enough soldiers. This battle is all about having effective synergy with all security agents from intelligence perspective. Because if you have a lot of manpower and you don't have the strategic drive to defeat these guys, they will keep on killing you.
But realistically, how long a course should they do? How long should be the training or whatever it is that they require?
Well, I don't know, maybe 6 months. If they want to have an emergency training, maybe 6 months, maybe 3, 4, 5 months. But like I rightly said, that is not the case. What we need to start looking at, the preventive measures, reactive measures, and proactive measures of the response mechanism of a given state. If we don't have an effective measures in place to ensure that we respond when crimes, when there's a commission of crime, and also we have proactive measures in place instead of being reactive, because what we have in our country, we're always being reactive after the commission of crime, which simply implies that security has been defeated. But for us to get it very right, finally, I think we need a holistic plan. The president has talked about personnel. There are 3 measures when it comes to security management: the people, the processes, and technology. Okay. So the government should also see on how we should, have an effective technology to hover around the enemy space and make sure that we fetch intelligence back to the state for them to go and eliminate them from their ungovernable space.
We say a big amen to that. So any last words, 30 seconds each, any last words from you, Sowore, before we close?
Well, I just want to say that when you are looking for enemies within, look at your government. The government of Nigeria today is the enemy within. Enemy within is incompetence, enemy within is compromise, enemy within is corruption. And the government of Nigeria represents that today, including inertia. The last thing I would like to say is that, I know a little bit, and I'm glad that my friend mentioned technology. You can have 1 million soldiers and not win a war. But if you have the right technology, 5 people can take care of these guys with a drone, sitting somewhere that you and I may not even know. So that's my last word. But most importantly, you need leaders you don't have right now.
Yes, for me, I'll reiterate what I said. Law is not sentiment. Before anybody would reach any conclusion or misconceptions, it's important to read the judgment delivered by Justice Omotosho, the 144-page judgment. And then I reiterate again that the law today in Nigeria, as decided by the Apex Court, is that the extraordinary rendition or any means which a person is brought to court does not vitiate trial. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, after all said and done, let's hope that the fire of the hot seats we have put the leaders on is having the desired effect.